Get ready to rock your style with Wicked Wanderings.
Introducing our brand new merch.
Cozy up in our Wicked hoodies.
Or flaunt your vibe in our sweet-ass t-shirt.
Join the Wicked Wanderings crew, explore the mysterious,
and head to our merch store now.
The link is in the show notes below. Stay curious, stay stylish, and keep on wanderings with Wicked Wanderings Podcast.
All right, so we're just going to do a little game. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm. No. I play games all day.
It's called Repeat After Me. Are you ready?
What the fuck?
Who wants to go first?
I will.
All right, repeat after me. Red.
Red.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Blue.
Blue.
What color is grass?
Green.
All right, Hannah, you're next.
The fuck? Okay.
Repeat after me.
Okay.
Red.
Red.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Blue.
Blue.
What color is grass?
What color is grass?
There we go. Ding, 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 ding.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
I have 3 college degrees and I'm smart. Son of a bitch.
Smart. You know what? You had disadvantage because you went first.
Yes, I guess so.
True. I still don't like that.
Okay.
New York State is alive with stories to tell, from true crime to dark history and the paranormal. New York's Dark Side podcast aims to bring you stories from all around New York State. I'm Amanda Morgan, your host, bringing you tales that you may have never heard before, such as the one of a state-funded school for persons with disabilities that had ties to human experimentation, an urban legend, and an alleged serial killer, or of the mysterious disappearance of a Supreme Court judge that shocked the nation, earning him the title of the most missingest missing man in America, or of how a fake news story regarding the Central Park Zoo sparked terror in New York City and helped influence the elephant and donkey used to depict America's 2 major political parties today. I have episodes geared to satisfy your curious side and so much more yet to come. New episodes post weekly on Sundays, and you can listen to past episodes now, ad-free, wherever you get your podcasts. I hope you stay curious.
Hello, Wanderers. I'm Jess.
And I'm Hannah.
And welcome to Wicked Wanderings. Hello, Hannah.
Hello, Jessica.
How the hell are you?
Bitch, I am ready for this week to be over.
Yes, but it's Thursday, it's recording night.
Actually, it's only Wednesday.
No, it's not.
It's Wednesday when the episode comes out.
Yes,
Well,
actually,
yeah,
it's
but
Wednesday.
No, we record on Thursdays.
It's Thursday for us and Wednesday for our Wanderers.
Hello, Wanderers.
Hello, Wanderers.
Unless you're listening on a Thursday.
You know what, Rob? Nobody needs your negativity right now.
We need to take the mic away from us.
I know, right? So our episode tonight
Ding, 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 ding.
is something that I'm super interested in.
Yeah.
And always have been because it's so intriguing to me.
Yeah.
And it's about children's memories.
Yeah. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're fired. It's about children's memories of past lives.
Ooh.
The reincarnation. So the source that I used today is a book by Jim B. Tucker called Before.
That's it? That's what it's called?
Well, and then it has like children's memories of previous lives.
Do you recommend this book?
Yes, because it's interesting, but it's kind of repetitive a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it has a lot of cool stories.
Yeah.
I mean, that part is cool. We will start with 6-year-old Kamal Atasoy of Turkey.
Ooh.
He lived in a middle-class neighborhood with his well-educated parents. His parents seemed amused by Kamal's descriptions of his experiences. You see, they weren't just any normal experiences a 6-year-old would have. Kamal said he had lived in Istanbul, some 500 miles away. He stated he had a different family and that his family's name had been Caracas. He had been a rich Armenian Christian who lived in a large 3-story house. The house, he said, was next to the house of a woman named Asigel.
Why do you always pick the podcast with the hard names?
You know, that's a very good question. I have no idea because they're the most interesting. But she was a well-known personality in Turkey who had left the country due to legal problems. His house had been on the water where the boats were tied up and there was a church behind it. He often carried a large leather bag and that he only lived in the house for part of the year. So kind of an odd tale for a 6-year-old, don't you think?
Yep.
And no one really knew if this story was true until he met with Dr. Keel in 1997. Dr. Keel was a researcher from the University of Virginia as part of the Division of Perceptual Studies, which is interesting that the University of Virginia has a department that researches this stuff. I had no idea. The beginning of the department actually happened in 1958 with Dr. Ivan Stevenson, who initially studied biochemistry and then became interested in psychosomatic medicine, which, for those of you who don't know, is the study of the connections between emotions and health. Dr. Stevenson also had an interest in paranormal phenomena, ones that go beyond current scientific explanation. Man after my own heart.
I know, right? Have him over for dinner.
Right? I think he's dead.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I guess we could, technically. Maybe he's reincarnated. He focused specifically on evidence of claimed memories of former incarnations. He started out by reviewing 44 previously reviewed cases that had been published of children who had described memories of previous lives. He was amazed by the pattern of the children from very different places making similar statements about past life memories. He would eventually end up publishing 230 articles in his career, and he was the one that started the Division of Perceptual Studies. And they studied cases like Kamal's to determine if there was really evidence of reincarnation. Kamal's family didn't really know anybody from Istanbul. Kamal had never been there, and his dad only visited there twice for business. And the family also didn't know any Armenians. His parents were Muslims, a group with a belief in reincarnation. But they didn't think the stories he'd been telling them since he was a toddler were that important.
Wait, are you saying the Muslims believe in reincarnation?
At least this group of Muslims.
Interesting.
Right? Dr. Keel set out to determine if what Kamal had been saying matched with somebody who actually lived. So he went to Istanbul. Yay! They found the house of a seagull, the woman Kamal had mentioned. Next door was an empty 3-story residence that matched his description. Dr. Keel met with an elderly man in the neighborhood who had remembered an Armenian living there. Dr. Keel had also interviewed a local historian who told him a similar story to Kamal's. The historian said that a rich Armenian Christian had lived there, and in fact, he had been the only Armenian who'd lived in the area. The family's name was Caracas, his wife was Greek Orthodox, and the couple had 3 children. And the Caracas clan still lived in another part of Istanbul, where they dealt in leather goods. And that's probably why the deceased man always carried a large leather bag. He had lived in the house during the summer months, and that he had died in either 1940 or 1941. So after years of research, the Division of Perceptual Studies had narrowed down the criteria that the cases had to meet in order to receive further investigation. They needed to meet at least 2 of the 6 criteria. Number 1.
Only 2 out of 6?
Yeah. I thought that was kind of a low.
It's very low.
Low bar to reach, but that's fine.
I guess they're kind of making it up as they go anyways.
Yeah. Well, and we get interesting stories out of it, so. Number 1, there has to be a prediction of rebirth. Not just, I will be reborn, but with some specifying details, such as the selection of the next parents, which is common among the lamas of Tibet. You know, like the Dalai Lama, not the animals. I didn't know that there was Anyway, we don't need to talk about what I didn't know. The current Dalai Lama predecessor apparently did not make any predictions. Other clues, such as meditation visions after his death, were used to find the boy identified as his rebirth. A tribe in Alaska frequently makes predictions about rebirth. Of 46 cases there, the previous personality predicted their rebirth in 10 of those cases. In 8 out of those 10 stories, they gave the names of the parents to which they wanted to be reborn. Number 2, an announcing dream, With this feature, a family member, usually the subject's mother, has a dream before or during pregnancy, in which the previous personality either announces that he or she is coming to the expecting mother or asks her. Such cases usually occur in the same family cases, ones in which the previous personality is a deceased member of the subject's family. And there have been cases from various cultures that have included announcing dreams and have occurred in 22% of the first 1,000 cases the department studied.
Huh.
What's that face you're making?
I don't know. This is interesting.
Right?
As someone that's into science, it seems like a low bar.
Yeah, it does.
And then you're really just going off of what people are telling you.
Yeah. This one I think is the most interesting. Number 3, birthmarks or birth defects related to a previous life.
A teat.
A teat.
I have a teat.
These are not simple blemishes, and they are noticed immediately after birth or within a few weeks. Many of the subjects in the department's cases are born with defects that match wounds of the body of the previous personality, and it is usually the fatal wounds. Now, this is an interesting example. It's the case of John McConnell, a retired New York City policeman who was working as a security guard. He stopped at an electronics store after work one night in 1992, and he saw 2 men robbing the store and pulled out his pistol. Another thief behind the counter began shooting at him, and John tried to shoot back, and even after he fell, he got up and shot again. He was hit 6 times.
Ooh.
One of the bullets entered his back and sliced through his left lung, his heart, and the main pulmonary artery, the blood vessel that takes the blood from the right side of the heart to the lungs to receive oxygen. John was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately he did not survive. John had been close to his family and had frequently told one of his daughters, Doreen, "No matter what, I am always going to take care of you." 5 years after John died, Doreen gave birth to a son named William. William began passing out soon after he was born, and doctors diagnosed him with a condition called pulmonary valve atresia, in which the valve of the pulmonary artery has not adequately formed so blood cannot travel through to the lungs. William had birth defects that were very similar to the fatal wounds suffered by his grandfather. In addition, when he became old enough to talk, he began talking about his grandfather's life. One day, when he was 3 years old, his mother was at home trying to work in her study when William kept acting up. Finally, she told him, "Sit down or I'm going to spank you." To which William replied, "Mom, when you were a little girl and I was your daddy, you were a bad lots of times and I never hit you."
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. His mother was initially taken aback by this. As William talked more about the life of his grandfather, she began to feel comforted by the idea that her father had returned.
Really? Because this kid just came out of my vagina. That's a little weird. Sorry. That's where my mind went.
Yeah. Oh,
I
Hannah.
wouldn't be comforted. Would you really be comforted?
No?
Yeah, right? That's
I don't know.
what I was saying.
William talked about his grandfather a number of times and discussed his death. He told his mother that several people were shooting during the incident when he was killed, and he asked a lot of questions about it. One time he said to his mother, "When you were a little girl and I was your daddy, what was my cat's name?" She responded, "You mean Maniac?" "No, not that one," William replied. "The white one. Boston?" "Yeah," William responded. "I used to call him Boss, right?" That was correct. The family had 2 cats named Maniac and Boston, and only John referred to the white one as Boss.
So weird.
Right? This is why I love these stories. One day, Doreen asked William if he remembered anything about the time before he was born. He said that he died on a Thursday and went to heaven. He said that he saw animals there and had also talked to God. He said, "I told God I was ready to come back and I got born on a Tuesday." Doreen tested him by saying, "So you were born on a Thursday and died on a Tuesday?" He quickly responded, "No, I died on a Thursday at night and was born on a Tuesday in the morning. And he was correct on both accounts. William also talked about the period between lives. He told his mom, when you die, you don't go right to heaven. You go to different levels. Here, then here, then here, as he moved his hand up each time. Oh, this is my favorite part about this whole story. He said that animals are reborn as well as humans, and that animals he saw in heaven did not bite or scratch. Oh, wouldn't you love that? Your dog's being reincarnated.
I would love to see my dogs again.
Right? John had been a practicing Roman Catholic, but he believed in reincarnation and said that he would take care of animals in his next life. William reminds Doreen of her father, especially when he tells her, "Don't worry, Mom, I'll take care of you." Isn't that so sweet? I feel like you're not fully convinced.
It's certainly interesting.
Right?
I'm not denying the fact that it might be real. It's just really hard to comprehend.
Hannah, have another drink and then we'll have this conversation again. Another interesting case is that of Suleyman Kaper in Turkey, which includes both announcing dreams and birth defect. Suleyman's mother had a dream during her pregnancy about a man that she did not recognize. He told her, "I was killed with a blow from a shovel. I want to stay with you and not anyone else." When Suleyman was born, the back of his skull was partially depressed, and he also had a birthmark there. When he was able to talk, he said that he had been a miller who died when an angry customer hit him on the head.
Oh.
He gave his mother the first name of the miller and the name of the village where he had lived. And wouldn't you know it, there was a miller that had been killed by a customer who hit him on the back of the head with a shovel. With the aid of Miller's autopsy report, they were able to compare the man's injuries to Suleyman's birthmark, which is interesting. Because some of these cases, they have autopsies of the people that the children claim they were and can verify based on the autopsy report and their birthmarks.
It's kind of interesting, though, that a couple of these happened in Turkey.
Yes, and in India, which they mention in the book, that these are populations that actually believe in reincarnation. And so
They're more receptive?
They're more receptive to the comments that are being said. Whereas in like America, they're not as high, but a lot of people don't believe in reincarnation and don't pay attention or think much of what the kids say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be happening, but it's just people are like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You saw a picture of great-grandpa or something.
Yeah. And they do go through that. Like maybe the grandfather's name was mentioned at some point during the kid's life and yada, yada. So they do explore that in the book, which is interesting. But 1/3 of the cases from India actually include birthmarks or defects that are thought to correspond with wounds from the previous personalities. And 18% of those have the medical records to confirm the match. So there's some sciencey stuff here that they can...
Some sciencey stuff.
Some sciencey stuff. Number 4, statements by the subject as a child about the previous life. The record should not depend on the subject alone, and at least one other person, parent or older sibling, should corroborate that the subject spoke about the previous life as a child. Most children who talk about the past life begin doing so between the ages of 2 and 4. The children almost always stop talking about the past lives around ages 6 or 7 and seem to go on to live normal lives. I've heard that there have been some people that remember their life for the remainder of their life.
Yeah.
But I think that's very rare in these cases. And most of the time they just stop talking about them.
Well, I feel like kids are just so receptive to so many things.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You care about kids seeing ghosts that people don't see, and then they grow out of it. And...
Well, and that's what I was wondering, too, is like, is this really a reincarnation, or is there, like, an old person, coming to visit them?
Yeah,
and so, like, even I had the thought reading this book, I'm like, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
In general, the children talk about people and events from near the end of the previous life. 75% of the children describe the way they died in their previous life, and the mode of death is usually violent and sudden, which also would be evidence towards a ghost haunting.
Right, because there's like unfinished business.
Mm-hmm. The lives that the children describe tend to be very recent ones, and in fact, the median time between death in the previous personality and birth of the subject is really only 15 to 16 months. However, exceptions like Kamal and the rich Armenian do exist. Almost have lived ordinary lives, often ending in unpleasant ways. The story of Kamal at the beginning of the episode is an example of this. Number 5. Recognition by subject of persons or objects which the previous personality was familiar. Number 6. The reason I waited was because this story has number 5 and number 6. Unusual behavior by subject. Behavior that is unusual in the subject's family and apparently corresponds to similar behavior shown by the presumed previous personality, or that could be conjectured for them, such as fear of firearms if the previous personality was fatally shot. So, like I said, the example of both of these. So, come up with an explanation for this.
Okay.
Suzanne of Lebanon was less than a year old when she spoke her first word. Layla. She would pick up the phone and say, "Hello, Layla." She began telling her family about a previous life that ended when she went to the United States for heart surgery. She would talk about this life, and Suzanne's family attempted to track down the family and were unable to until Suzanne was 5 years old. Suzanne eventually met the family of the woman who she thought she had been and convinced them that she was the woman reborn. Suzanne knew specific details about that life and that the woman had died at a medical center in the U.S. after heart surgery. She had a daughter named Layla, who was not able to join her because of the passport problems. In all, Suzanne made 40 statements about the previous life that were verified as accurate, including the names of 25 people that she got right in this woman's life. I'm sorry, but that's not a coincidence.
Apparently I need another beer because I'm still not.
You're still not convinced? But it was 40 statements that were accurate, and she knew the names of 25 people in this woman's life. I don't even remember the names of 25 people in my own life.
Oh, yeah, no.
So,
Definitely not.
Another interesting case from the book is Patrick Christensen, who was born in Michigan. So we got a U.S. case.
Yay!
He was born in 1991, and when the nurses brought him to his mother, she immediately felt that he was connected to her first son, who had died of cancer at the age of 2 in 1979, so 12 years earlier. She noticed that Patrick had 3 defects that matched those of her other son that he had when he died. Her first son, Kevin, began to limp when he was 1.5 years old. One day, he fell and broke his left leg. This led to a medical workup that included a biopsy of a nodule on his scalp right above his right ear. Doctors diagnosed him with metastatic head cancer.
Cancer.
A bone scan showed many abnormal sites. His left eye was protruding and bruised due to a tumor. He received chemotherapy through a central line in the right side of his neck. Through the side on his neck where the chemotherapy agents were entering his body, became flushed and slightly swollen several times. He had no major problems with the treatment and was eventually discharged home. He received outpatient treatment, but returned to the hospital 5 months later. At that point, he appeared blind in his left eye. He was admitted with a fever, treated with antibiotics, and then discharged from the hospital, and he ended up dying 2 days later. 3 weeks after his second birthday. Kevin's parents, this is what is so intriguing to me. Okay. Kevin's parents had separated before his death, and his mother eventually remarried, where she gave birth to 3 more children, a daughter, a son, and then Patrick. At birth, he had a slanting birthmark with the appearance of a small cut on the right side of his neck, the same location of Kevin's central line. A nodule on his scalp right above his ear where Kevin's biopsy tumor had been, and a corneal leucoma in his left eye that caused him, like Kevin, to have very little vision in that eye. When he began walking, he limped, favoring his left leg. And when he was almost 4.5, he began telling his mother things that she felt were related to the life of Kevin. He talked some time about wanting to go back to their previous home and told his mother that he had left her there. He said that the home was orange and brown, which was correct, and he asked his mom if she remembered him having surgery. And when she replied that he hadn't had surgery, he said that he pointed to the area above his right ear where Kevin had his nodule biopsied. He also said he did not remember the actual surgery because he was asleep.
Just so you know, Rob's the one making faces over there.
Is he?
Yep.
Faces about what?
Every time you say something about this case, like the scar above his ear and all that stuff.
Right? Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, ow, no you don't.
So my Auntie Debbie, who has since passed, she was always afraid of bridges. She could never drive over a bridge. In the 90s, we used to drive down to Florida, and we used to do like caravans and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one time that I was in her van and she was driving, and Uncle Brian was in the passenger seat. They put the cruise control on and they switched while they were driving, 75, 80 miles an hour down the highway. And she gets in the passenger seat and she has to put the seat all the way back so she can't see anything out any of the windows. I guess in her 20s or 30s, she went and saw
a hypnotist
or a psychic or whatnot. And they determined that she had died on a bridge in the Civil War.
Oh, shit. That's interesting.
Yeah.
See, I think that would be cool. And they talk about that in the book. But that is one of those things where I'm like, is this just something a psychic is coming up with?
Yeah.
Or, But I still part of me wants to believe that it can happen. Hannah is the skeptic.
I'll be skeptic. But I believe in Bigfoot, so what do I know?
Yeah. True. Thanks for your story, Rob. It helps validate my experience right now. Another time, Patrick saw a picture of Kevin, whose pictures were not normally displayed in the home, and said that was a picture of him. And so this one is interesting for the fact that Kevin, or Patrick, only came back to one parent.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Because all the other ones we've talked about, like, their parents were completely different people, but Patrick/Kevin came back to his mom. They had the same mom, but different dad.
Yeah, I did think about that. That was very peculiar.
Yeah. I also like hearing the stories more about the wounds, like the children being born with like the defects, like we mentioned. Also, I am deathly afraid of being buried alive or feeling stuck. So I wonder if I was buried alive in my previous life.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
A sincere expression of gratitude to our esteemed patrons:
Lynn from Massachusetts, Heather from New Jersey, Chelsea from Utah, Courtney from Massachusetts, Amber from Idaho, and Stephanie from Massachusetts for their generous monthly contributions.
Their support fuels the engine of our investigative endeavors here at Wicked Wanderings.
You too can become a valued patron and unlock a realm of exclusive content by supporting our mission for as little as $3 a month. Your contribution sustains our commitment to delivering high-quality content.
Visit wickedwanderingspodcast.com and click on the support tab to join the ranks of dedicated patrons like Lynn, Heather, Courtney, and Chelsea. Your investment not only keeps our podcast thriving, but also ensures you're at the forefront of our intriguing discoveries. Visit wickedwanderingspodcast.com and click on the support tab to join the ranks of the dedicated patrons like Lynn, Heather, Courtney, and Chelsea. Your investment not only keeps our podcast thriving, but also ensures that you are at the forefront of our intriguing discoveries.
And now back to the shit show.
Okay. So I will say, like, from my past religious experiences, that it kind of makes me unsettled to think that this might be
what happens is that it's reincarnation, not you just go to heaven. Because
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it sounds pretty good at the end of this just to be able to spend eternity whatever way you feel, right? But to think like, fuck, I gotta do this life again.
Yes.
Like, oh, it just gives me an unsettled feeling.
Mm-hmm. But what if it's a good life? What's up with the negativity tonight, Hannah?
I don't know.
For every negative comment, you have to take a shot.
Well, that's probably about 10 right now.
So catch up. There was an awesome story in the book, and I should have included it, but I'm kind of summarizing it right now. There was a woman who had a dog that passed away, obviously, and she was really close to this dog. And she believed that her daughter was a reincarnation of her dog.
What?
Because her daughter, like, did some similar things as the dog. And this could be just, you know, this woman needing her dog and blah, blah. But she loved to sit at the window and watch people go by. I can't remember the other things.
Wouldn't you be worried about your daughter at that point? I don't know. I'm probably thinking way too much into this.
I want my little dread bear to come back, and Lily in the next life.
I would want Kira to come back and Sammy. I get it.
Yeah.
But wasn't it the daughter coming back as the dog? Or you said the dog came back as the daughter?
Yeah. The dog died and she had a daughter.
So she thinks that her daughter is a dog because
in a
she
previous
likes to
life.
sit in a window and look outside?
There was more things that I don't remember that were in the book.
Okay.
That talked about it. Like there were other things.
I just think that's kind of funny.
She went and shit in the backyard.
No, she didn't.
No, she didn't.
Oh, okay. I mean, that'd be just a little weird.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Or she spins around when she gets a cookie or something, like our dog.
And maybe she was so excited when her mom always came home, like jumping up and down. Mom, you're home.
Yeah. Or if she takes a pee and she's really cocky and she does the she digs, you know, and throws the grass up in the air.
I mean, those are all options.
But none of that happened with this one.
No, I don't think so. So now for some Reddit stories, because I think some stories from a book are one thing, but various people's stories in...
Everyone wants peer-reviewed journals from Reddit.
Yes. This is from user Face in the Blue. I spoke in full sentences from a very young age. One day my mother took me to a doctor's office for a checkup. And while she's waiting, she starts flipping through a magazine. She said it was like a National Geographic or something, but I've gone looking through all the issues of the years, likely to be in a waiting room in the early 80s. But I'm confident it wasn't actually National Geographic. Whatever it was, she was flipping through it, and with my little hands, I grabbed the thing, flicked back several pages frantically, and then put my face like an inch above the page. I just froze, poring over this picture of a ruined monastery in a desert, drinking in every little detail. My mother can't remember whether it was Africa or the Middle East, unfortunately, but she asks me what I like so much about the picture. I used to live there, I said. She laughed. No, you've always lived with me. No, this was a long time before you were born, I told her, waving one hand at her dismissively. So she pulls me back from the page and asks me, well, what did you used to do when you lived there? Thinking this was one of those games children play where they talk about being firefighters or construction workers or the like. She says I told her I wrote books and I grew vegetables. And my little finger pointed to an outbuilding of the monastery and an empty field behind it. Well, I'm speaking in full sentences, but I can't read yet. My mother said she got very cold, started shivering from head to toe. The caption of the photo was explaining that the monastery was nearly self-sufficient, gathering rainwater in cisterns to support vegetable gardens year-round behind the scriptorium, where the monks produce copies of the Bible and other holy books. She says she put down the magazine and walked out of the doctor's office with me in her arms. She rescheduled the appointment. It was just too creepy. This one is my favorite username, Tits McGee.
Ooh, hello, Tits McGee.
When I was about 3 or 4, I started telling my family about my previous life. I told my mom how I lived in a flat in a tall building in a city with my parents and our dog, Daniel. I can't remember the mom's name, but the dad was called Steve and was a fireman.
They must be British.
Yes.
I mean, they're in a flat and it's a mum.
It's a mum. I told me mum. I don't remember my mom's name. Okay, I'm going to stop. But the dad's dad was called Steve and was a fireman, which I said was funny because we all actually died in a fire.
Oh, creepy.
Yeah. This is Megster53. My mother believes I am her grandmother reincarnated, who passed away shortly before I was born. When I was a toddler, I would always grab both my mom's cheeks when I kissed her, which is how Grandma used to kiss her as well. Once when I was about 3, I apparently was playing on the living room floor when I suddenly looked at my mom and said, Edward wasn't a bad man. He just wasn't a good husband. That was my great-grandfather's name. My mom freaked out a bit, but her grandma was her favorite person in the world, and now I think she likes having a reason as to why I'm her favorite kid. She also went to a psychic who says that she and I are always together in our lives, whether we're sisters, mother and daughter, best friends, etc. And I think that really cemented it for her. Isn't that a fun story? That would be cool.
I feel like some stuff's genetic.
I mean, obviously, but what do you mean by that?
Like, I'm thinking about when the mom is saying that she likes how her daughter grabs her face.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like I've had those instances with my mom, like, oh my gosh, that's what your great grandmother, like, she would do it just like that. I feel like it's sometimes just genetics. It's like in your bones.
Yeah. Like Nellie's.
Like Nellie's. Right, exactly.
So, what do you think, Wanderers? Do you believe in reincarnation? Does anyone have a good story that we can read?
Or do we think it's all BS?
I think you're BS, Hannah.
I definitely believe in it.
Right?
Skeptical Rob over here.
Why am I skeptical?
Because you don't believe in Bigfoot.
That's different.
That's
Bigfoot.
so different.
Bigfoot is all about evolution.
Bigfoot's not just about evolution.
No.
Kind of is. Just saying.
Please enlighten me, Hannah.
Okay, that's another episode.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
So, yeah, that is our episode on reincarnation.
I mean,
and
I
not
think I
Bigfoot.
believe in fairies more than I believe in reincarnation, but we'll see.
No. All right, we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye, Wanderers.
Bye.
Thanks for listening today. This show wouldn't be possible without our amazing producer and editor, Rob Fitzpatrick, who works tirelessly behind the scenes to bring you the best content.
And a special thanks to Taiga Soundprod for providing the captivating intro music. Cinematic Intro 24.
And of course, we can't forget the hauntingly beautiful outro music, Rhino's Theme, composed by Kevin MacLeod.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platforms, like Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Your feedback means the world to us.
Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram for behind-the-scenes glimpses, updates, and more thrilling content. You can find us at Wicked Wanderings Podcast.
Thank you so much for listening and being part of our Wicked Wanderings community. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Stay curious,
Keep exploring.
and always remember to keep on wandering.
Do you like stories about haunted locations? Or maybe tales of cryptids and spooky folklore from around the world? If so, why not tune in to Haunted Escapes with Chris and Diane, where all this and more will be discussed. New episodes drop every Sunday, with visual versions the following Friday on YouTube. So why not come join us on our Haunted Escapes?